The lack of online supervision and protection of children has seen a growing number of online predators exposing children to harmful sexual material. Recently, the South African Police Service arrested 3 alleged child online sexual predators in the Western Cape, including a man who posed as a teenager to lure underage girls to a chat group where child pornography was distributed and shared. This brings the total number of online alleged sexual predators arrested in all parts of the country since last year, November, to 7. But to talk more about the protection of children from online harmful material, we are joined virtually by Dr Mashilo Boloka, Chief Executive Officer of the Film and Publication Board. Dr Boloka, thank you very much for joining us and welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Leanne, and all South Africans. And once again, thank you for the opportunity granted to us this morning.
Yeah, it's a pleasure and such an important issue. Now, one of the men arrested in the Western Cape recently posed as a teenager, as I said in the introduction, to lure underage girls to this chat group where child pornography was distributed and shared. I don't imagine that this was an isolated incident, and unfortunately, these cases are quite common. Is that a fact? Do we find this happening quite often?
Let's take this opportunity first and foremost as the Film and Publication Board to congratulate the SABC for the wonderful work that they've been doing. We know 7 is still a low number, but I think it's a step in the right direction. I think as the Film and Publication Board will support them in making sure that these perpetrators get the highest sentence as prescribed in the Film and Publication Act, which is 750,000 or imprisonment of 5 years. If they can get the 2, that would be great. I think this is not new. I think it's a new trend. What is I think is generally is kind of compounded by technological development around artificial intelligence. I think that's why for many of us in the regulatory space, we are dealing with all this kind of technologies to make sure that we deal with this kind of issues. It's a new phenomenon, it's growing. Hence, also, there's an issue of age verification checks. I think it's a new technology that has been developed around that. So technology is making it more difficult, more complex than this kind of case have been previously.
I mean, the internet and digital online platforms have become an integral part of our lives all the time. You rarely find anybody without a device in their hand, and that includes children, young children. And with the increase of GBV cases, online chat platforms, social media, the concern is now around the current regulations, including the Films and Publications Act 65 of 1996, which prohibits the distribution and sharing of online pornographic material. Why is this new legislation that needs to be changed sitting, gathering dust? Shouldn't it all be reviewed and updated now?
Just to say, Leanne, I think you are correct. At least the legislation was amended in 2019. We only started implementing it on the 1st of March 2022. But because the discussions around the legislation started as far back as 2015, and the period between 2019 up until now, I think a lot has changed. Key amongst others, the definition. I mean, in our act, you got terminology such as child pornography. And how can a child be in pornography? It means, or it seems to suggest that a child is equally involved or is participating in the act. That's why we've got new terminology such as children abusive sexual materials, or CSAM, which is used across the world. And as the FPB, together with our partners in the international world, those are kind of terminologies that we are pushing. And we want to kind of persuade the legislature through our ministry to make sure that the act is amended. Even though we started implementing, but already with the new technologies and new development, it requires to be revised. And I think we are working with the department around that area.
Yeah, but when you look at the slow uptake of this, and that's the worrying thing, because predators are out there and they are preying on children. And I mean, with the advent of, as we said, with phones and devices and all of these things that are happening, why has this not even been presented to Parliament or before Parliament? And, you know, there are many issues that need to change. I mean, these things need to be moved on, and very, very fast.
I think one of the things, the commendable part that we must give to the South African Parliament is the fact that they have transformed an agency like ourselves as the online content regulator just to deal with the online space. Prior to this act, there was no one regulating it. And now, as the Film and Publication Board, you got that responsibility. And I want to say that if you look at across the world, we are amongst the 5 leading countries on online safety, beating even what you consider as first democracies. I think the United Kingdom just passed its legislations last year, 22, I think September 2023. And if you look at us, I think it's us, Australia, which have been leading. And then on the continent, we are the one that is leading. Not to say that this is the best way or we are the best, but to say at least that there is that step that has been done. I think the most important thing is an entity like ourselves to strengthen that area and make sure that we don't smile when coming to enforcement. Hence, we have since issued this week notices to the platform owners to say they must, take appropriate steps on children protection because it can't only be the responsibility of the parents. Mm-hmm. These are the guys that are distributing it. So they must make sure, whether it's your TikTok, whether it's your Twitter, whether it's your Facebook, they've got the responsibility. They can't be absolved from the responsibility of protecting the children. Hence, we won't be smiling with them in the next couple of months. We take them to the enforcement committee, chaired by a retired judge, so that case of non-compliance can be dealt with and dealt with harshly. So there are penalties that can be imposed. The Act provides that, even though they are not adequate, because you are dealing with a very $1 trillion industry. And whatever fines that you provide in South African rands may not be a deterrent, but will do whatever it takes.
Yeah. That's a very big issue, and an issue that certainly one has to look at, is that those that, whether we're talking to these major players in that, I mean, whether it be Meta, whether it be X, whether it be TikTok, all of these companies need to be held accountable for what they do, because a lot of the times you don't even have to produce an ID document, and you can open up a profile, you can be on their platform, and you are exposed to things that it's unbelievable. I mean, I've got social media presence on many of these platforms, obviously, and I mean, I'll open particularly something like X, and the amount of pornography that jumps up in front of you without even looking for it, it just is there, is something that is there all of the time, and nothing's done about it, and this is a problem. Now, I ask you, as the Film and Publication Board, one of the mandates is to criminalize, obviously, the use of children and the exposure of children to pornography. Are film distributors accountable, and these users, these platforms that we're using, are they responsible on how they classify their material?
At least on the classification side, let me be honest with you, we get a lot of cooperation. First of all, as required by the Act, they register with us, and most of the distributors in that space register with us, and we classify their material. And I think this is the other part that is very critical, that we issue age ratings, whether it's PG-13, whatever that you can call it. But if any member of the public is not happy with the classification rating that we have done as the FPB, they can petition what you call the appeals tribunal, or they can request, I think that's the other public rights that the law accords members of the public. They can petition us to reclassify the movies or the rating. Or if they see any movie that doesn't carry the FPB logo, that triangle that shows that has been rated by the FPB, they can approach us, then we'll deal with the matter. But there's a new trend, Leanne, that's very key. Most of the people amongst the public, what they do is they take clips from where they have been rated, like whether it's Netflix or whatever, where they've been adequately rated, then they put them on social media where they are not regulated at all. I think that's a new trend that we see, and a lot of them you find that these are sexually explosive scenes that are not supposed to be there. A movie has been adequately rated, but someone illegally takes the movie from where it was rated and put it on social media. And that's the new trend that we are seeing. And that's why one of the things that we are doing is to say to the platform owners, assist us to deal with this part, because it's your responsibility to remove it. You must take it down. The law provides for that. But that's the appeal that you are making to members of the public, that
Sorry, Dr. Boloka, because we've got literally a minute and we've got to be out. And that's where my problem comes in, is that as much as you may put all of these, times have changed. Social media is the way people get information. I know that one of the most difficult things is to track down where it all begins. But now the SAPS, the Serial and Electronic Crimes Unit, works with the USA in their Department of Homeland Security. They worked with them to arrest these 3 men alleged to be child online sexual predators. But how can you monitor online abuse? I mean, when these platforms don't abide by rules, how easy is it?
That's why I think what we do, what you call electronic monitoring, which will be able to detect this kind of harmful content. And I think because the online space is borderless, that's why FPB is a member of the what you call the InHope. It's an association of 54 online hotlines scattered across the world. Because some of these matters you find that they are not, even though they are distributed in South Africa, but they are not originating from South Africa. So we report these matters to our online partners to trace that and make sure that they are removed on the other side. And I think they do the same if the content is coming from South Africa. So no one can deal with the online space alone. Hence, we need to work with we also work with Interpol as well, with the SAPS and the Homeland Security of the US. So it tells you the nature and the complexity and the vastness of the thing that we are dealing with.
Indeed.
Therefore, it requires collaboration also with the platform owners as well.
Yeah.
Some have got what they call standards that they've put together, which I think are very robust, but others, honestly, they are not doing enough.
Not doing enough. All right. Dr. Boloka, I have to leave it there, unfortunately. Thank you. The CEO of the Film and Publication Board, talking to us about the protection of children online. It's frightening when you look at statistics of what kids are seeing online and what they are exposed to. I mean, listen to this as we leave you. 8% of children online, young ones below the age of 16, have seen naked pictures online already.